Good evening, everyone. My name is Sheila Aula, and I am the Senior Guidance Counselor here at Residence Medical. Thank you for joining us this evening for our live webinar for Residence Medical Dream Residency Success Story. We are joined by Dr. Tatenda.
Evening, and thanks for having me, Sheila.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So we will be going through Dr. Tatenda's journey, and he will go ahead and start by sharing a little bit of his experiences with you, and then I will go ahead and ask him a few questions, and then by the end of the webinar, I'll be able to ask him the questions that you all can input through the live webinar with the column to the right. So Dr. Tatenda, if you could please share a little bit about your experiences and your past history with us.
Okay, thank you, Sheila, and good evening, everyone, again. I'm Tatenda. I graduated in 2002 in Zimbabwe, so I am quite a mature IMG. And after graduating in 2002, I did our internship in Zimbabwe, and I worked as a general practitioner or a family physician until 2018. I started my journey with the USMLEs in 2016, and I wrote my step 1 in 2016. I didn't have a very spectacular score. It was an average score. I had 224. At that point, I really felt like giving up. So it took me almost another year to write my step 2 CK. And I did prepare and try to pull up my score. So I did in 2017, I did my step 2 CK, and I had a 245 score. Thereafter, I did my CS immediately, and in December of 2017, I did my step 3 as well, and I had a 228. All of these steps I did on the first attempt. My step 3 came in December of 2017. And at that time, I decided I would apply, even though it was a little bit late. So I started my applications in December of 2017 for the 2018 cycle. I applied to almost 500 programs, and in that time, I didn't get any interview at all. Near the end of the match season in 2018, I decided to contact Residence Medical just after the match, because I had not managed to get any return on what I had invested in terms of the steps. When I approached Residence Medical, they did offer me an interview in the post-match, in the SOAP period, but that was for neurology. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to match in the neurology residency program. From 2018, I was working with Residence Medical to try and improve my resume and to gain a bit more of US experience. That initial time I applied for residency, I had not had any US clinical experience. And in April of 2018, Residence Medical arranged for me to do my first rotation, which I did in New York. After that rotation, I went back home, and then in July, I started my research in Alabama, and I was under one of the department's chairs in a surgical department. I worked well with my preceptor, and he did manage to mentor me into doing some publications. From July till now, I've managed to have 6 research articles. 4 of them have been published, and one is underway it has been accepted for publication. And the 6th one, I'm hoping to submit it and finish it before I start residency at the beginning of July. With the 2019 season, I did 210 applications, and all of these were provided to me by Residence Medical. And they were into internal medicine, pediatrics, family medicine, and a handful in pathology. I had the option to choose which specialty I wanted and preferred. but I decided to increase my chances by applying to all 4 specialties. Residence medical knew my aim was to match into internal medicine, and so they did put a lot of weight into internal medicine and try to guide me through with the applications and what to do. During the interview season, I managed to get 2 interviews, all of them thanks to Residence Medical, and I did manage to match into one of the 2 programs I had interviewed, and that was my first choice. And currently I'm now working on my visa, and I should be able to start my residency in July, and it is in internal medicine. And this has been a brief preview of my journey with Residence Medical till now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tatenda. So I kind of want to touch on a few points that you brought up during your story or your journey since 2017 and up until now in 2019. So yeah. You mentioned that you graduated in 2002, obviously from a foreign school in Zimbabwe, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Sheila.
Perfect. So then you practiced in your home country up until I believe it was 2016, and that's when you decided that you would like to try and navigate your way through the U.S. medical system, correct?
Yes, until 2017. And so I did my steps while working back home and only coming for the exams. So I hadn't had any proper experience with the U.S. system until 2018 when I started the rotations.
So when you were studying for your USMLEs back then, did you study on your own or did you have any tutoring?
I did on my own. I just did a web search and I did find out that most people were using first aid for USMLE for step 1. And there were a few videos which I came across on YouTube, and that's what I used for step 1. Step 2, I broadened my scope, my resources, and I used again first aid and the Kaplan series for my step 2 CK. I came for my step 2 CS, and during that time I met a few people and they did advise me on what to use for step 3. So step 3 I used the book by Fisher. I forgot the name. And I also used the Kaplan Step 3 series and UWorld. So those were the main resources I used. I didn't know about UWorld until after my step 1.
Okay. So what I wanted to tell everyone who's listening is that obviously your USMLE step scores are very imperative to when you're applying to the the match in general. So step scores, with them being a minimum 220 and above, is going to be a filter of many of the programs that you end up applying to in the upcoming season. So what that means is that if you have scores below 220 or have any failed attempts, you will be filtered out from a vast majority of the programs you apply to. So Dr. Tatenda mentioned that he applied, you said, to 500 programs the first time that you went through the NRMP, correct?
That's correct. So yes, the 2018 season, I did apply to more than 500 programs.
And because of his graduation year and I believe a lack of US experience, I believe that was another reason why you did not receive interview invites at that time. Many programs have another filter set for year of graduation being either 3 or 5 years from post-graduation. So I believe that, along with obviously not having the experience here in the US, could have been a reason why you did not receive any interview invites. And that was definitely something that we had to work on with your particular case. And as far as studying for the USMLEs, I wanted to let you guys know, if any of you are currently preparing for any of your exams, we do offer one-on-one USMLE tutoring. All of our tutors have scored 250 or better on their exams, and they do work with our clients on a one-to-one basis via Skype. We actually offer a free assessment with one of our tutors. So if any of you are interested, please do email us. We can send you one of our intake forms and you can be scheduled and set up with one of our tutors so you can have a free assessment and kind of come up with a study plan or basically a whole curriculum of how to prepare for the exams, because I do believe that Dr. Tatenda was was successful with our services, vastly because of his USMLE step scores, along with the experiences that we were able to provide him with. So if any of you are still not done with any of your exams, I highly recommend that you do contact us to help you with that. So when you contacted us originally, I think we initially analyzed your CV and kind of discussed your red flags with you on a one-to-one basis, correct?
That's correct, Sheila, yes. So at that time, because it was at the end of the season, there wasn't much that could have been done. And it was highlighted and pointed out to me that my year of graduation and my letters of recommendation, even though they were not waived, they weren't going to really weigh much in terms of the applications. So my lack of any other education from my primary medical degree, lack of research. So there were quite a lot of red flags with my CV at that point, which we did try to fix in that time.
Absolutely. So a lot of the things that we look at with our candidates or people who are, looking into our services, that when we review your CV, we're looking for any red flags that, any program director would be looking for, or they will see when you do apply. So that could be gaps in your CV, that could be a lack of research experience, lack of clinical experience, not having LORs that are recent enough, your USMLE scores, failed attempts. So there's many things that are looked at and are huge factors as far as even getting an interview. So one of our services that we do provide is that we revamp and re-edit our clients' CVs, personal statements, and ARIS applications. So this is something that I wanted to bring to your attention as we are approaching September again, which means that the season is going to be starting again. It's going to be July before you know it. Tokens will be available. You will be filling out your applications. How you actually input the information to your ARIS application is very critical. There's a lot of key points that people miss and sometimes overlook when they're doing these applications. So it's really great to have other people take a look at it and kind of help you better prepare in those areas. So having a personal statement towards whether it's internal medicine, family medicine, pediatrics, whatever specialty it is that you're applying to, having a separate personal statement for each of those specialties is very important as well. So if any of you are getting ready for the upcoming season, we do offer that service. So I do recommend taking a look at that. So after we, initially analyzed your CV, Dr. Tatenda, I think that we did try to see what we could do for you at that time, but as you mentioned, it was late in the season. But I do want to mention that we, as a company, we do help people during SOAP, post-match, pre-match, and on match day. So we are helping people year-round, but based on your particular profile and what we have available, we end up putting together customized plans for you. So basically, for you, Dr. Tatenda, the best route, given your profile, was to get you some experience, to get some LORs, and then get you placed into a research program where you could thrive. So the reason behind what we did is that we basically set you up with a mentor, someone who obviously you can tell them about how you actually had to interview for this position. It wasn't something that was just handed to you. You actually did have to interview for the research position and be accepted. But once you got through that point, it wasn't done. You had to go in, and as you mentioned, you had multiple publications this year, and you still have more left. So you did work very hard, and we are very proud of what you did. If you could give a little more information of what it was like to go through the research fellowship, that would be, I think, fantastic for the viewers to hear.
So the first time I spoke to my mentor was after residence medical did connect me to my mentor through an email. Like I said, he's in the surgical department, and my aim has been to do internal medicine. So he was a little bit reluctant to start off with. And I did speak to him, and then he did express his reservations about me being a foreign medical graduate and my intention of going into internal medicine. So it did take a bit of explaining my situation, explaining my capabilities, the passion and the drive I had and how I thought it wasn't going to be much of a factor for me to understand the surgical background so that I can use that once I'm doing internal medicine. So in the end, he did agree and changed his mind, and then he managed to take me under as his mentee to do research in surgery, even though my field of interest has been internal medicine. Once I started the research, I had to go through 2 weeks where I didn't have any contact with patients. I didn't have much contact with anyone. In that time, that was dedicated learning time. I had to do research protocols. I had to do the HIPAA. I had to do a lot of training so that I would be allowed to access medical records and to understand the US system. So those first 2 weeks, I didn't understand much about it. It did dishearten me a bit until at the end, when I did understand that you definitely need to have those to be able to do research at any facility. So wherever you go for a research, they will do that to you, but don't break in that time, because that's just a test of your character and who you are. So I did manage to finish that, and after the 2 weeks, he was quite impressed because I did it earlier than he had anticipated. And he did show me his research, and he gave me a few steps to do some literature research around some of the publications he had done the year before. So the first 2 research I had to do were to carry out literature reviews and to understand how to do research on my own. So those were not translational research. So it was basically going through a lot of search engines, understanding where different types of research come from. So I did those first 2 publications as literature reviews. And in that time, we were still accumulating data on patients for his surgical research that he was doing into robotic surgery. At the end of that time, he asked me to put up an article related to the research into robotic surgery. And that's when everything really started to come up together, where I understood why he had made me do the literature reviews, to understand how to be able to search and to put it into the translational research. So I did do the robotic case, and we did manage to do a presentation for it at the I did manage to do a presentation for it at the Surgical Congress in February in North Carolina this year. After that, after the robotic cases, I had to do a Barrett's esophagus research where he was collecting samples, and I would be responsible for taking them to the lab and to put in the data together for what the lab had managed to come up with. And that was the second translational research which I managed to do. So at that point, by the time I went into the match this year, by the time the match season was coming to an end, I had 4 research which were already published. And from there on, he asked me to do another literature review for what we are doing now. And that's still again into robotic and weight loss surgery. So this is now where the last research should be coming out, which we are supposed to be submitting before I start residency. We have managed to complete the write-up, and we are just going through revisions and editing to make sure that it meets the formatting and wording for the American Surgeon Journal.
Fantastic. So as you can see, Dr. Tatenda worked very hard and was exposed to the US medical system, something that was very new to him, and it wasn't easy at first, as you mentioned, but you worked hard, you didn't give up, and you persevered, and it all paid off in the end. So when you were placed to do research under the chairman, who was from a surgery department, it had been discussed, at least from our end, that we would be mentoring you into primary care, because your profile was not one that would be fitting for surgery, obviously because of scores and year of graduation and things like that. So when we are analyzing, your CV or anyone's CV, we look at the overall picture to see what is realistic and what can possibly be obtained with your profile that you have, irrespective of what services or what education we are going to provide you with. So going into this opportunity, we had the idea, and that's why, you know, when we advised you where to apply, you did apply to primary care, but also to pathology and whatnot, but it was not to surgery, because that was not the goal, irrespective of you being mentored and doing, you know, research in surgery. But you had the exposure to interact with faculty and staff from other departments, if I'm correct, right?
That's correct. So in the time I was doing, in this time, my mentor had made arrangements that I should be able to attend the internal medicine grand rounds. And that was a stepping point where I did manage to get in touch, to make connections with a few other doctors, to make connections with the program director in internal medicine, and to meet the residents as well. So most of the residents in the program, I know them quite well, and most of the attendings as well in the internal medicine program, I know them quite well. So for now, I have become quite exposed to both the surgical faculty and the internal medicine faculty.
Absolutely. And that was exactly of, you know, of the whole experience from our perspective, was that we wanted you to have exposure not only under the chairman, who obviously was able to mentor you and help you, but also to have an opportunity to interact with the faculty, the residents from the primary care internal medicine department, which obviously ultimately paid off, and you did end up matching into internal medicine. And that's obviously strongly because of the hard work that you put in, as well as, you know, the impression that you left with your mentor and everyone you interact with. So I just want to kind of highlight how important it is that whether you're going into research with us or if you're doing research on your own, that while you are doing it, you do invest the time to network and to impress the people that you are around, and to go above and beyond, you know, what you think is necessary, because those things are critical and crucial to you being successful and to continuing your medical career. So as you guys know, it's very competitive. Dr. Tatena did not even get a single interview, despite his, you know, scores that were average, but they were above the marks for being filtered out. So there are obviously a lot of different things that you have to keep in mind when thinking about your application and how to improve and how to navigate your way through the system. I don't know if any of you have questions from any of the content that we've discussed, but as I mentioned earlier, there is a questions box on the side where you can input your questions, and Dr. Tatenda or myself will answer them back for you. I wanted to also talk to everyone about interview preparation. So that's a service that we provide, and I believe you obviously did use that along with us, correct, Dr. Tatenda?
Okay, yes. So after the application season started, I had the chance to go through, I think it was 3 sessions where I had to do Skype interviews, mock interviews, and I had the chance to have someone critique me and to ask me questions. It did make me feel uncomfortable, but this was one of the first interviews I had in a long time. And it did kind of prepare me on how to say my story, how to present myself. And it did also highlight some of the things I wasn't supposed to say or to bring up, so that it wouldn't bring up red flags which I already had and would not have wanted to be exposed during the interview. My biggest red flag is definitely being an IMG. And one of my interview, one of the guys who was helping me prepare for the interviews did help me how to not talk much about what I have been doing and how I am an IMG, so that it doesn't leave the interviewee trying to come back to that idea. So in that way, I did think it did help quite a lot, because I managed to evade that, and I think it did make me score quite a lot, the interview preparations, that is.
Fantastic. So definitely, when preparing, whether it's for an interview for research or you are interviewing for residency, we handle them pretty similarly as far as being prepared. So a lot of our clients are working one-on-one via Skype with the professionals who provide interview preparation. So 60% of succeeding is basically how you perform during the interview, because getting an interview is one thing, but actually going in and being able to tackle it and present yourself properly is imperative to succeeding. So if any of you are getting ready for the season, I suggest looking into interview preparation. It's something that would be very beneficial to have under your belt. So that is definitely something that I do suggest. And let me see if I have any questions here.
So one of the things I would want to point out as well, Sheila, is even though Residence Medical did help me to secure the research position, and everyone who takes on Residence Medical, you still have to put in the hours, you still have to do the job, you still have to impress and do your part, so that your mentor or your research mentor and the faculty there will put in a good word for you wherever you are trying to interview and wherever you want to go. So you still have to perform and do well in that position. Residence Medical give you a better footing, a better position to be able to present yourself to someone who is in a position to help you much better. So I definitely would recommend Residence Medical, and that you put on put in the hours and put your strong foot forward when you're doing the research.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tatenda. You along with, I believe this year we are up to 26 people who we've helped successfully match, whether it was pre-match, match day, SOAP, and post-match. We are seeing each year these numbers grow, and we are very excited to take on more clients, new clients, and people who are, in a position where they may be about to give up on, pursuing their medical careers or their passions for medicine. So I strongly suggest, if any of you are at a point where you think you need some guidance or some assistance, we can definitely talk to you. There's no obligation for contacting us or going through a consultation where we review your CV. That's completely free. So if you are interested, please send us your CVs to info@residencemedical.com. You can take a look at our website. And yeah, definitely we are here to help you. I'm going to start going through some of these questions so we can answer them. And I will start with, let's see. So, hi, congrats. Do you receive any stipend during your research session, Dr. Tatenda?
Oh, okay. So yes, I did receive expenses allowance every month from Residence Medical. From the start until now, I'm still receiving a monthly stipend from Residence Medical.
Sure. So basically, Residence Medical is basically also, an educational and guidance institution, but we do work with a sister organization, which does help with a lot of these different things that we are putting together for you. So if you are interested, like I said, please do send us your CV, and we can definitely help you and discuss opportunities for research, the stipends involved, and the whole cost of the program. Next question, did Residence Medical give you the research program to participate in? So you can answer that, Dr. Tatenda. We did recommend you, and you did end up where you were because we helped place you there.
Yeah, yes. So Residence Medical did. I actually had the selection of two. I had two choices. There was the one in New York, and that was in PMR, and the one which I eventually did, which was in surgery. And being an IMG, I'm not quite familiar with PMR, so the surgical option was the better choice for me, and I did take the surgical option.
Yes. So the next question, hi, Dr. Tatenda. I have a question to ask you, if you don't mind sharing. When in the interview season did you get your interviews, and did you interview with the program director, residents, or a combination of both?
Okay, I stand under correction, but my first interview, I got it on the 11th of November. The second one, that was the first response for the interview. and the second one was a little bit after that. And when I did the interview, the first interview, I did the interview with the program chair and 2 other faculty. At the other place, I did the interview with the program director and other faculty as well.
So also for those of you listening about interviews, I wanted to touch base on that just a little bit. So when you do go through the process and you have interviewed, it is very important that you follow up with a thank you note, letters of intent later in the season, and your ranking order list and all these things are very important to be prepared for. The next question, did you take your step 3 exam prior to going into the research position? Did you do your research position this past academic year?
So I did my step 3 prior to doing the research. I completed my step 3 in December of 2017. So 2018, I didn't do anything to do with the USMLEs, and I started my research in July of 2018 until now. So it's for 1 year, and I'm still doing the research at this point.
So Dr. B is asking, what options are available if we start the process now? So this is actually the perfect time for you to consider and think about starting the process now. There's still enough time for you to get set up and be in either a research or a clinical opportunity where you can at least spend some time prior to interview season starting. I would advise against coming and doing it mid-season or the end of the year because that limits your options. So there definitely still are opportunities, and I do suggest and recommend that if you are interested or thinking about it, that you do begin the process sooner rather than later, because you want more time to be exposed. The more time, the better, basically, in this type of situation.
And it also gives you a bit more time to be able to network. Like I said, both interviews I had, I got them through residence medical, and it was because of networking with the people in the internal medicine program that I did manage to secure both. So it gives you enough time if you start early with the research, and residence medical will be able to guide you on who to contact and how to get around some of those hurdles.
Fantastic. So is it possible to get specific services instead of kind of the global prep that Dr. Tatenda received? Yes. So to answer that, yes, we do provide individual services, whether that's interview prep, USMLE tutoring, CV, personal statement revamping, ARIS revamping. Research normally comes along in a package where those services are combined with it, where you are, you get all of the things I just listed and it's included with a research fellowship. But if you want specifically just one of those services, the CV, personal statement, interview prep, you can contact us and we do that. Such as just placement opportunities in research or clinical rotations. Yes, we also do set up rotations in parts of the country. A minimum is normally 4 weeks in order to have an opportunity to perform and earn an LOR. Just because you are placed into an externship does not mean that you are guaranteed an LOR. You do have to go there, you do have to do well. And like I said, it's a minimum of 4 weeks in order to have an opportunity to earn one of those. And placement opportunities. So placement opportunities is based off of your qualification. You have to go through our qualification process. So if you are interested in finding out about whether or not you may qualify for that, you would have to go through the process of submitting your CV, having a video chat with one of our counselors, and basically going through the rest of our qualification process. But we are accepting and we are looking at candidates for that now. So the next question. Thank you, Dr. Tatenda, for sharing your story and journey. Which programs did you apply to? Community, university?
So I did match into a university program, and the other interview was at a community program. So my applications were spread on both primary care and community programs and university programs. But I eventually matched to a university program. I also have to let you know that one of the things with the program I matched to, it's not a very IMG friendly program. and the average score is around 245. And I have a way lower score than 245 for my step 1. But the chance I had to interact with some of the faculty did give me the opportunity to interview there. And so it has really paid off to have done this research and to be in these circumstances.
Absolutely. So the next question, what is your website address? So our website address is www.residencemedical.com. So Dr. Tatenda, congratulations for matching. Does Residence Medical offer clinical rotations? So yes, we do. So please contact us. We do have opportunities in internal medicine, family medicine, and some other specialties as well in different parts of the country. Hi, Dr. Tatenda. Did you get both interviews in internal medicine?
Yes, both were in internal medicine.
Okay. So I may have missed a little of your conversation. My question, if you don't mind, why did you not do research in internal medicine? So I can answer that, or you can, Dr. Tatenda, but basically.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you can go ahead, Sheila.
Okay. So essentially, Dr. Tatenda and our team here at Residence Medical came up with a plan where he would be doing research under a chairman in a surgical program where he would be able to be mentored into primary care, which means that he was set up in an opportunity where he had chances to go to grand rounds and didactic lectures in internal medicine and interact with the faculty, the staff, and the residents from internal medicine at the same university program. So there was a set plan of and a pathway that we had set up for him, and it included doing research in surgery.
And like I said before, I did interact with quite a lot of the internal medicine faculty, and I had the option of asking them for a letter of recommendation as well, because I did spend quite a lot of time in the medical wards as well while doing the research. So that was a good exposure to the US system, in that I was doing research in a surgical department and still doing rounds, the grand rounds, and interacting with the internal medicine faculty. So it was a good setup for me.
Absolutely. So Dr. B is asking, do you have any students succeed with low scores? So to answer that, yes, we have a variety of clients who have been successful. I've had people who are older graduates like Dr. Tatenda from 2002. I've had clients who are 2007, 2009, 2010, 2015, and even recent graduates, 2018. And I have seen people with no failed attempts, low scores, some with multiple failed attempts. So we do have different pathways and packages based on your particular profile. So even if you are questioning whether or not this may be the right service for you, I encourage you to at least contact us and find out, what type of different opportunities we can discuss and provide you with. The next question, as an IMG, Dr. Tatenda, did you find not having US citizenship a significant hurdle?
I would say yes, in a way, because it did limit the programs that I could apply to. And currently I'm waiting for my visa to be approved. So we are still at the point where I'm not sure I will be able to start on time on the 1st of July, but the program has understood my predicament and they have given me a leeway until the 1st of August to have my visa sorted out. So if I had if I had a green card or if I had permanent residence in the US, I suppose things would have been a bit easier. My options would have been more in where I would have applied or interviewed. But being without having a US citizenship or green card, it has caused a few challenges for me.
Absolutely, and I would second that, saying that visa sponsorship is something to consider because there are limitations of what programs you can apply to and which programs provide J and H-1B visas, and having visa sponsorship available for you to do research. So those are definitely things to take into consideration. Did you match at the program where you did your research?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Okay. I think someone else had asked the same question, so I'm going to skip that. So do they place candidates in visa sponsoring institutions for research? So yes, when we have candidates who need visa sponsorship, we cannot have you do research in a program without having your visa sponsored. You can't do that. So if you're talking to us and we're trying to figure out, where to have different opportunities for you, we have to obviously take into consideration finding a program that works for you, that your criteria is one that may be, one that you're eligible for and that will sponsor visas. So that's why sometimes you have one or two options, sometimes you have one option. It really depends on your profile, but we will not recommend you to go somewhere unless you actually have a chance to be considered. So next question. I graduated from an accredited university from Poland in 2010, but went straight into home health and hospice administration without completing my USMLEs or residency. So basically, that's okay, even though you're a 2010 graduate and you haven't done your USMLEs. If it's something that you're considering about wanting to work on doing them, I definitely suggest that focusing on your exams and getting those out of the way and getting decent scores is something that you should definitely dedicate and kind of get out of the way. Obviously, you will need experience here in the US, just like Dr. Tatenda did, that including definitely clinical, so you can have LORs for when you apply, and then having some research under your belt will be obviously beneficial as well. So yeah, basically your next question was, is there still a chance for me to go back into clinical medicine? Yes, there is. When did you start your research? So you told them it was July of 2018.
July of last year, yes.
So you're basically going to complete a full 12 months of research.
That's correct, yes.
Absolutely.
Well, short by 2 weeks, but it's a year.
Generally speaking, when we set up research fellowships, it's with the idea that there's a 9 to 12 month commitment. So even if you start researching, let's say July, and you match later in March, you're expected / we expect you to continue your research and finish off, all the work that you've started, because it would be very unpleasant and disappointing for someone to just kind of walk away from, everything that they have done so far. So definitely 9 to 12 months of research is something that our candidates commit to. There are some people who actually have spent longer in research, those who may have some more severe profiles, maybe lower scores, failed attempts, things like that. I have seen people spend longer than 12 months. So, Dr. Tatenda, if you don't mind, I would like to ask if doing research is manageable with family and children.
So I am married. I have 2 children. I have 2 teenage kids. So yep, it is possible. Research work is not as hectic as residency. It's not like your 8 to 5 is completely swamped with research work. So in a day, I would say I start work at 8 and I finish at 5 every day. But between 8 and 9, there isn't much to do because we are still waiting for records from the previous day. Then from 9 o'clock, it picks up. And by lunch, I'm usually done with entering the patients. And then after lunch, it's usually doing literature research. So I don't take any work home. So it is really manageable. It's quite a flexible thing to do. And yes, you can do it with a family at home.
Absolutely. I would say that when you are doing research, if you have a newborn or something like that, I would be a little bit concerned. If you, it also depends on your support system, right? If you live here in the US, you have in-laws, there's people who can help you. Those things obviously make a difference. But when you are at research, you are supposed to be committed and go above and beyond. So let's say a normal work day is 8 to 5, but there's a day that there may be things that they want you to stay late or work on and things like that. I would advise, or I would expect that our candidates put in the extra effort and stay later and do the things. So being able to dedicate yourself fully to, the opportunity is something that will benefit you in the long run. So next question, did you encounter any questions during interviews about your research in surgery?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So at both places I interviewed, I was asked about my research and how it would relate to internal medicine. So that was quite a bit of a query, and I had been prepared how to answer it. And so I think I did perform quite well on that question, and why I hadn't done internal medicine research.
And just to build on that, when there are questions that may arise during interviews, that is something that our coaches prep our candidates on prior to going into them. So those are things that they would discuss with you and help you, have answers prepared and have an idea of how to tackle those type of difficult questions. Do candidates match in the program where they do research? So a vast majority of my clients, yes, they do match into the program where they're doing research, but is that the only way that they match? No, it's not. I've had people do research in programs, end up with multiple interviews at other programs, and match into other ones. So if it's the case when it comes to ranking order and your ranking order list, we obviously work with you one-on-one to make sure that your list is, basically put together in a way where your chances are, to match are very high. So just because you do research somewhere does not mean that you will match there, but there is a high likeliness and there's a past history of that happening, at least with our clients. Okay, can you give us an example of any client who had very low scores and matched? Also, how long did it take them to match? So when you go through our qualification process, if you're interested of working with us, we can definitely discuss more cases with you, but I have plenty of clients who had low scores and failed attempts who matched. Some of them it took 1 year, some people it takes 1.5 years, 2 years. It really depends on, like I said, what time of the year you sign up, what your profile is, what I have available, and also your performance. So I've had people who I've set up into opportunities who may have had failed attempts, and then we, made it clear to them that passing step 3 is something that they need to do. So just giving that situation or that scenario more emphasis, basically when you have failed attempts and you're applying to residency, a program director, most of them are going to want and see that you pass step 3 because you are a high risk for not passing your boards. So passing there are many programs that will not even consider you if you don't have step 3 passed. So there's many things that we look into and we discuss with you when trying to improve your application and strengthen that. So like I said, if you want to hear more about other clients who have had low scores, when you go through our qualification process, you are allowed to speak to references. So there are a lot of clients who are able to speak to you and you can hear their specific criteria from them themselves, and you can gain some insight about their specific journeys. And yeah, definitely. So would Residence Medical make the call on whether research or clinical experience be more useful? Is this specific to the candidate? Yes, absolutely. So like I said, every single client we work with, their pathway and package is customized. So just because Dr. Tatenda was successful with the pathway that we set up for him, that does not mean that it's a cookie cutter thing that everyone has the same pathway. Some people spend more time doing clinical, some people spend more time doing research, some people spend more time studying for step 3, some people have to study and take the ITE exam. So everyone is different, and that's why we work with you on a one-to-one basis. And I definitely suggest, like I said, to contact us to go into more detail about that. Do I have any research opportunities in Atlanta? I do not have any research opportunities in Atlanta right now, but I do have clinical in Atlanta. And there may be opportunities for research in Atlanta in the future, but at the moment I don't have it right now. Do you help with couples match? Yes, we can help with couples match. Dr. Tatenda, are the research positions that residence medical helps connect with paid positions? So like we talked about earlier, there are stipends that the researchers receive when doing research. So that is, technically a paid research fellowship. Do we have any research positions in internal medicine? So yes, we do, but internal medicine is our most popular specialty. So it's a kind of as a first come first served basis. So as I said, when you based off your profile, what we have available, we select programs. Does Residence Medical have any clinical research opportunities in the Midwest? We may. You definitely should discuss with us, and we can see what's available for you. Have I had any clients who did not match? Yes, there have been clients who have not matched a very, very small amount. And to be quite honest, a lot of times it's been people who did not follow our instructions or our guidance. So as I mentioned, there are different things that each person has to work on. For example, one being step 3. I've had clients who were not successful with matching until they passed step 3. So that means that it took more than 1 year for them to be successful. So when you make the decision to work with us as an organization, we emphasize education and our guidance services. So when we request and advise you to do something, it is obviously for your best interest for matching. So when you don't follow through with certain particular things, it can make it more difficult for you and for us to be successful. So it has to be a cohesive relationship where there's hard work from your end and also from ours. It's not a magic wand that I can make things happen and whatnot. It's definitely a process and a journey, and it takes teamwork and a lot of collaboration in order to be successful. Okay, so I think we're coming up on an hour, so I think I'll answer one more. So what do you do if you have scores below 220 on both? So dependent upon if you have failed attempts, what your year of graduation is, what specialty, what type of things you're dealing with, I would be able to advise and come up with a plan for you. I have had plenty of clients who have low scores below 220 on both of their STEP exams, and they successfully match. So definitely contact us so we can discuss with you. How to cover an attempt on step 2 CS. So you can't cover anything, unfortunately. Your USMLE transcripts are sent to the programs through ARIS, through NRMP. So an attempt on CS, I would like to say, is not as severe as an attempt on step 1 or step 2 in my experience and from the program directors that I've spoken to and dealt with. So a failed attempt on step 2 CS is something that I think is definitely recoverable. So I suggest to not give up and to keep working. Do programs have filters which filter out people with attempts? Yes, they do. How to overcome this filter? So the way to overcome filters is basically the process and the journey that we set up for Dr. Tatenda. As we discussed, he was filtered out from the 500 programs that he applied to for various reasons. So because of that, we obviously put together a pathway for him and gave him an opportunity to go and spend time with a program where he'd actually have a real chance of being considered. The difference between going and finding research on your own and going through residence medical is that residence medical has vetted opportunities where wherever you are sent, you really do have a chance. There's many people who I speak to every day who I hear about their stories, and they spend 1 year, 2 years dedicating themselves at programs where they actually really didn't have a chance. So that is the main reason why a lot of people come and seek our services, and they end up being successful, because you can go and do research at a program, you may not have an opportunity to network, to be exposed to the right people. So that is something that is very important, because the filters are here to stay. They're not going anywhere. And unfortunately, you could be a fantastic physician, but you may be a horrible test taker for whatever reasons, anxiety, or, you know, there's many reasons why you cannot do well in exams. But the point of it is that just because on paper or because your scores are low does not mean that you are not able to perform well when on the job. So that's why having an opportunity to go in and prove yourself is very, very important. And the reason why I do what I do, because I love to see my clients succeed, like Dr. Tatenda. He came and worked so hard. He put his whole life on the line. He risked it and he trusted us. And now he is successful. He's going into residency. He's going to have a beautiful life. And we're all very proud of you.
Thank you, Sheila.
So I don't know if you have any closing remarks, Dr. Tatenda, but it's been a pleasure to work with you and to speak to you this evening. And we're very excited for you. And I know, you are going to be a very successful physician, and, thank you so much for trusting in us.
Thank you, Sheila. And it was my pleasure working with Residence Medical.
So thank you all so much for joining us this evening for this recap of a Dream Residency with Dr. Tatenda. If any of you have any questions, feel free to call us at the office. The phone number here is 310-444-9700. You can reach us online at www.residencemedical.com, or you can email us at info@residencemedical.com as well. And have a great evening and take care.
Good night.